Hey guys, I'm Hope, and today I'm going to talk about a question that I get asked quite a lot, which is why I chose to go to grad school. So recently, I've been meeting a lot of people who will ask me, do I need to go to a boot camp? How do I get a job at Microsoft, at Intel, at larger companies? And I'm realizing I feel like there's almost like a misconception where you can kind of go to a boot camp or take a certificate and then immediately start working at a big tech company, which I don't want to say that is like absolutely impossible, but I want to just set some expectations. I think it's only fair to just set expectations. So I think at the end of the day, UX research it's one of those fields where you do really have to get experience and to demonstrate that you have the experience before you actually get a job. Because it is so competitive, I think that folks who go to grad school tend to have a leg up, but I don't think that's the only way. I think at the end of the day, what you have to do is be able to show that you have project and work experience. You can't necessarily get that just from doing project experience at a boot camp. I think you have to kind of be open to maybe starting off with a startup or a smaller company to get some experience after you boot camp before trying to apply to, I don't know, like a Meta or Twitter, if that's what you want to do. Let me first share why I decided to go to grad school, and hopefully you can kind of figure out if that makes sense for you or if you want to take another option. So, for me, a few years back, I was working as a software engineer and I was trying to transition into the UX design, UX research field. I didn't really know where I wanted to get in yet, whether it was design or research. I just knew I wanted to get out of what I was doing and into something a bit more creative, something that really matched my personality. So I actually tried applying to UX roles for about a year with like no luck at all. I would get called into the first screen, the phone screening, but definitely like right after that interview, ghost town completely. I think for me, the biggest thing was I had my projects didn't really show a lot of product impact. So I had projects where I had like a heuristic evaluation. I completed a site redesign. I did like a qualitative survey for like just smaller clients on my own. I think I talked about that in my last video, but it didn't really showcase that I had experience working on a product team. And I was going for like Google. I was applying to Microsoft, to Google, to all these companies where they're looking for people who have experience in that type of space, like in a product team, working with different types of cross-functional partners, things like that. And I definitely didn't have that. So someone actually advised me to go to grad school and told me about some scholarships that I could apply to. So it just made a lot of sense. I was like, oh, absolutely. I got accepted to the scholarship program and went to grad school. So it just made a lot of sense for me. I think that there are like four key things I feel like really that I learned in grad school. One was I think in grad school I was able to get a more in-depth study of about the history of design, of psychology, how I don't know how you guys create these YouTube videos because the way that the candle just refocused my frame. So anyway, I learned in grad school was more of an in-depth study about the history of design, of psychology, of interaction principles. And I think it just gave me a more, for me, it gave me a deeper understanding of some of those things. So if you think of an iceberg, for example, right? I feel like with a boot camp or certificate, you might be getting like the tip of the iceberg or whatever is over the surface versus grad school will also it'll give you that, but also give you a bit of an understanding of what is underneath and inside of the water, like, the bottom of the iceberg as well. I hope that example makes sense. But one design reading that always sticks to me is I remember, I don't remember what it was called, but I remember reading a book about how just how intentional design can be. So I took a class on, it was called like Science and Technology Studies, and we were really talking about looking at design from a more critical lens. We talked about how some cities, both today and in the past, so those benches where, let's say like New York, you might see some benches in different parks where there's like a demarcation. There's like, there's an arm in between the bench. So sometimes those are actually intentionally designed to keep away homeless people from sleeping in them, which was just appalling. Like I remember reading that and being like, whoa. But I think that was something that just really stuck to me because it showed me how much design can be intentional. and how much design, especially if you're not doing the work to actually understand different types of people, how design can be biased, how it can have a negative impact like that. At the end of the day, it's not like an objective, it's not something that's objective necessarily. We create products for a purpose, right? Whether it's for capital gain, whether it's for, whether it's for money, whether it's to relay a certain message, all the things around us are designed for, they have a function. Our bed is designed in a certain way, this chair is designed in a certain way, this microphone that I have is designed in a way that serves a specific purpose. For me, what was interesting about research was the opportunity to get behind that a bit and to kind of drive the conversation and the study around, who are we designing for, who are we excluding, who are we including, and what is that message that we're hoping to get across, but also how do we learn about different types of people so that we're creating design that is well informed. So that was always what energized me about research and design. Second thing is, I think it helped me to learn how to not to consume too much and how to really create my point of view. What I mean by that is, in your master's program or especially PhD, you're really forced that sounds kind of intense, but you're really encouraged obviously to have a master's project. You're writing a thesis around it. In a PhD, you are encouraged to write articles to submit to different conferences. So it starts to put you into this mode of like, creating, and once you kind of absorb knowledge, you are also now putting out what your perspective is on that. And I think that's a really invaluable skill to have. Third is internship experience. So some differences as well, right? In a grad school, you're going to be eligible for actual internships at companies. Versus if you're in a boot camp or certificate program, you may not be considered a student necessarily. So you might miss out on some opportunities there. Lastly, design conferences and community. I feel like in grad school, there's just so many different conferences like Chi, a research conference. There are a lot of opportunities to go to conferences as a student, to meet other people, and just read up about all the different types of research that is happening with students, not just in the United States, but globally. And being able to participate in them was really invaluable. UX research, boot camps, and certificates. I feel like they tend to be a bit sped up. So if you remember, I talked about the iceberg model. So that tip of the iceberg, I think that's really what you get in a boot camp and certificate from people that I know who have attended boot camps. It's a bit more sped up than a longer, 2-3 year study of design and research and the history of design, which is completely fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking that option. But I think that it's important to also supplement that with different readings as well, and to attend UX conferences, research conferences, design conferences, so that you're also meeting people who are in different schools or maybe different boot camps, who maybe are self-starters. They are just doing project experience on their own. They're working at startup, which just helps you to build your network a bit more. And lastly, I think that when you go to a boot camp or certificate, I think you need to have some realistic expectations as well on the types of role that you might want to apply to afterwards. I talked about even myself, right? Like when I wasn't even in a boot camp. I did some online learning. And I was like, I'm absolutely ready for a role. I was applying to Google, I was applying to all these tech companies, and all I just kept hearing was like, no, 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 getting ghosted all the time. I would make it to the phone screen at least, and then after that, it was like, no. It was not a great experience, but I think what I realized is when you only have a few years of experience or even some project experience from a bootcamp certificate, you may want to explore working at smaller companies, maybe where you're a UX designer and researcher and getting your feet wet in both. Maybe you're exploring contract positions where you are an entry level associate, or you're working in more of like research ops and just getting some experience before you apply to larger roles or more senior roles. So just kind of set expectations that you may need to build more years of experience even after your boot camp or certificate to really get to the type of company that you want to work for. So it just depends on what your goal is. So that's why I decided to go to grad school. And if you're considering other options like a boot camp, a certificate program, then I hope that this was helpful just to give you some things to think through so that you make a decision that works for you. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on social media or join my newsletter where I share some tips. I share some job opportunities as well for entry-level experienced hires as well. And yeah, all right. So the Super Bowl is actually happening right now. I'm gonna go watch that at my premiere party in my living room, eat some pizza and watch Rihanna because we love Rihanna. Thank you so much for watching this video, and comment below. I want to know, are you considering boot camps, grad school, certificate programs? Let me know. I'm curious if you have any questions. Ask away. Thank you. Bye.